See, should have waited the 15 seconds. Welcome, everyone. City of Merritt regular council meeting, Tuesday, October 22nd. Oh, put my glasses on. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that we are gathered on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territories of the Inca, Kappa, and Silk people. Late items, very late item. It's Councillor Charney's birthday today, so that's why it's late. So happy 85th birthday. And funny story, Councillor Charney had a big party on the weekend to celebrate her 75th, but she's actually 74, so she jagged everybody on that one. Yeah, yeah, kind of scary that we're going into budget with that kind of theory. But public input, do we have any? Thank you. Adoption of minutes, regular council meeting minutes, October the 8th, 2024. Recommendation that the minutes of the regular council meeting held October the 8th, 2024 be adopted. Councillor Egan, Councillor Charney, any questions, errors, or omissions? Birthday girl, are you cool? Excellent. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 5, public hearing. Public hearing regarding official community plan amendment bylaw number 2377. 2024 and zoning amendment bylaw number 2378 2024. Public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to receive input from the community and staff on the proposed bylaw as outlined in the notice of public hearing. The public hearing is being conveyed pursuant to section 464 of the Local Government Act. The public hearing is being held in an in-person format, and members of council, staff, and the public are participating in person. Council will use established speaker list. At the end of the speakers list, the chair may call on speakers from the audience. Each speaker will have 5 minutes to address council for a first time and should begin remarks to council by stating their names and address. After everyone who wishes to speak has spoken once, speakers will then be allowed 1 additional 5-minute presentation. Any additional presentations will only be allowed at the discretion of the chair. Please do not repeat information from your previous presentations and ensure your comments remain focused on the bylaw under consideration this evening. If a written submission has been provided, there is no need to read it as it will have already been seen by council. It can be summarized, ensuring that the comments are pertaining to the bylaw under consideration at this hearing. All members of the audience are asked to be respectful of one another as diverse opinions are expressed. Council wishes to hear everyone's views in an open and impartial forum. Council is here to listen to the public. Do not debate the merits of the bylaw. Council may ask to clarify questions. The corporate officer has a binder containing documents and submissions related to the bylaw, which council has received and which members of the public are welcome to review. Everyone at the hearing will be provided an opportunity to speak if necessary. The hearing will continue on to a second night. At the conclusion of the public input, council may request further information from staff, which may or may not require an extension of the hearing. Or council may close the hearing, after which council should not receive further new information from the public, and the public hearing is being streamed live over the internet and recorded in accordance with the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. I will now ask the corporate officer to introduce the bylaw. Seal.
Thank you, Your Worship. The bylaws this evening, as noted, are the item this evening, or thank you, Your Worship. The bylaws before you this evening are the public hearing are the OCP bylaw 2377 and the rezoning bylaw for 2378. The statutory advertising has been met, and we have not received any information at this point from members of the public in regards to this public hearing.
Thank you. Mr. Pranesh, you're up.
Thank you, Your Worship. For the OCP amendment bylaw 2377 and the zoning amendment bylaw 2378, the applicant is proposing to amend the OCP land use designation from low to medium density residential to industrial, and rezoning the property from Sabon recreational commercial to light industrial. The applicant has only applied for OCP and zoning amendment at this time, and proposed use hasn't been determined yet. I'd also like to update the council regarding the restrictive covenant. The staff is working with the legal to prepare the restrictive covenant and will submit for the council consideration at the time of third reading. And at this meeting, we are only going through the public hearing process. staff may also accommodate concerns, comments from the public hearing or from the public input in the covenant. And yeah, so essentially we are working with the legal department, and then we'll bring forward the city covenant at the time of third reading.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Representations from the public. Anybody here want to speak on this from the public? Second time. Anybody here from the public want to address this? Come on, Ken, you look like you want to say something. I'm joking. Third time from the public. Done. Questions from council? Any questions from council on this? The report was very thorough, so thank you very much. Thank you, Pranesh. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. So the resolution we have that the October 22nd, 2024 public hearing regarding bylaw 2377 and 2378 is closed. And that the official community plan amendment bylaw number 2377-2024 and zoning amendment bylaw number 2378-2024 are returned to council for further consideration. Nodded the head from Councillor Egan and a eyebrow from Councillor Etchart. Just like his cookie there. Any, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you, everyone. Moving on, general matters, delegations and recognitions. Do we have any? No? No? Okay. Unfinished business bylaws, City of Merritt, 8.1, City of Merritt 2025-2027, permissive tax exemption bylaw number 2380-2024 adoption. We do have a recommendation that council adopt the City of Merritt 2025-2027 permissive tax exemption bylaw number 2380-2024. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Etchart, any questions on that one? We've been here already, so. Councillor Egan.
Yeah, I just wanted to know if there had been any of the organizations that didn't get the tax exemption they were looking for had come forward to city and made any other requests or complaints?
Not that we know of. Seal? Seal?
You received an email today, sir, from an organization that had questions about permissive tax exemption.
Thought that was for a new application.
No,
Okay.
they indicated that they had submitted an application, however, we did not receive it. And had a second check or a third check was done today of emails and was not received.
Okay.
However, having reviewed the information that was provided, they would not have been eligible as they don't have a lease to provide, which indicates that they actually pay taxes as a part of their
Yes,
lease agreement. So
right.
they're currently not eligible.
We've discussed that one before.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, thank you. So yes, one, Councillor Egan, but they
Okay,
did not
well,
qualify.
no, I appreciate that. It's just I've heard a lot of complaints, so. I'm
They
just
have
wondering
not
if
come our
anybody-
way. They have
Okay.
not come our way.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Did I get a seconder and a mover on that? It's okay. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you very much. 8.2. City of Merritt 2024-2028 financial plan amendment. We have three recommendations. We'll do each one at each time here. Recommendation that council gives first reading to the City of Merritt 2024-2028 financial plan amendment bylaw 2379-2024. Councillor Hogan. Councillor Hogan, Councillor Baxter. Any questions on this? We've been here already, so. This is new. Oh, sorry. Any questions? You still have two more recommendations to go. Councillor Sharney.
Well, I'll let Councillor Goldman go first.
Okay, Councillor Hogan, you're up.
Thank you. So would that be possible to receive a quick overview of the main changes that we are going to be addressing tonight?
CFO?
Certainly. So there are 9 items that we have included as amendments. Briefly cover them and please stop me with questions as we go. So the intention of the first amendment item was to update for the current resourcing for the bylaw team. The original budget premised one full-time role and one seasonal role. And there was a decision to proceed with a 2.0 FTE team. So the 2024 expenses have been increased for the 2 months of additional wages past the seasonal period that was originally premised in the bylaw. And then additional wages for 2025 through 2028 have been premised to upgrade from a seasonal role to a full-time role. On the property insurance side,
Yep, sorry.
Yeah, regarding the full-time bylaw officers, could you remind me again when we actually approved that? Because to my recollection, we've only discussed it. And I thought this was staff's way of introducing it again to make a decision.
correct? My understanding is that it had been socialized with council. But if there's council direction to adjust the amending bylaw, we can certainly take that back and adjust it. That's
I
no
would like-
problem.
I would like to see that, yes.
I'll pause
Yep.
the overview to allow that motion to continue.
CFO.
So would this be that council would like to remove this from the amendment and go back to a 1.5?
Well, I don't think that it's been approved by the entire council to
Okay.
go ahead with 2 full-time.
So what can happen in this situation is you can ask for an amendment to the bylaw as a part of this, so we could approve the rest of it with the amendment being removing that section of it. If council would like to continue to have that second bylaw, full-time bylaw officer, then they can just approve as presented.
Okay, well,
Then- or we can
I
amend
have,
this.
I have some issues with the bylaws, the bylaw department. That probably should not be discussed, until we have a closed meeting.
Okay.
So I don't think I want to approve this at all right now.
So do we want to, Councilor Charlie?
Well, I would like to do what the CAO said, remove this and discuss it later. Is that what we can do, right?
We can.
We can remove it and
Or we
approve
can-
everything
Or we
else.
can table the whole thing for another day. It's totally up to you guys.
Thing for another day. However, I think there are some things here we have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
probably make.
Yeah,
that
well,
decision.
I'm just talking about
So-
point 1.
Yeah.
Point one. Councilor Etcher.
I agree with the same comments that I think we could remove that,
Sure.
and proceed with the rest because there wasn't a big concern. I did read through the other increases, the damage, the fire, lightning strike at the fire hall, the damages seemed reasonable, but I think when we're talking about FTEs and staff at a time where we're really having to find cost cutting measures, I think it's something that we have to discuss. I agree with Councillor Egan and Charlie on this. So,
Okay,
thank you.
So I guess we will amend it to defeat
Yeah,
this.
make a friendly amendment.
Let's make a friendly amendment that the recommendation that we is that the City of Merritt 2024-2028 financial plan amendment bylaw 2379-2024 be read a first time as without point 1. So friendly amendment was that we would continue on with the removal of point 1 at this time. Seconder and did I have a seconder and approver? Okay, you're okay with that? Yep. So we'll do that. We'll remove point 1 and we'll continue on. We can vote on it at the very end, can we not? Yep. Back to you, point 2.
My mic is still red.
Yep, you're good to
Is
go.
that right?
You're good to go. You were good.
Wasn't green down here. Okay. Property insurance costs have been an issue since the flood. It's something that staff is well aware of and are taking actions to mitigate in future years. However, the unplanned impact on our renewal was an additional $76,000 for 2024. Basically, our premiums are now up 300% since the flood, and deductibles are up 900%. So not exactly satisfactory conditions for the city. We're taking action to engage and find out our optionality for 2025, including preparing summary packages for consideration on all the flood mitigation work that's being done here in the city, summarizing some of the key projects, dikes around the public works yard, items of that nature. But in the meantime, given that we had outstanding claims, nothing could really be done beyond trying to negotiate down to this level, which we did. And there was some savings, but it's definitely a challenge right now. And so we'll need to find best optionality we can to meet our insurance needs for 2025 and beyond. We'll have more to say on that next week. In terms of LGCAP funding, so this is a good news story, hopefully for council. Provincial government decided to award 3 years worth of climate action funding. And they did that at the start of this year, which allows for more certainty and the ability for municipalities to plan out longer term projects or more material projects in any given year. You can see that we've outlined what hopefully is a good news story, where we have the ability to meet some of our emissions targets in the OCP while electrifying our fleet and potentially removing some pickup capital requests out of the budget. So we would have savings not only on the capital side, but on the interest costs that would be required if we took out debt to buy those pickups. And so that's one of the uses of funds that we think meets key objectives in the OCP, while also reducing some burden on the taxpayer. We also had to adjust some of our revenue expectations. So as you're aware, ultimately it's the sale of our services and our costs, and the difference of our budgetary requirements has to come out of taxation. So if our costs come in higher or the sale of our services comes in lower, it's ultimately property taxation that's the balancer in that equation. So there's two key areas where we have some risk. The sale of permit fees and development services has come in lower than expectation. So that's lower than premise development in the community. And that means that there's a budgetary shortfall as it relates to sale of that service. And then the second item is our septic revenues. So when we had some large commercial customers and activity going on in and around the community, septic revenues were higher. We are not seeing that this year, and we need to work on building up that commercial revenue base again. But again, this is to recognize the fact that that revenue is not coming in as planned, and we need to take action to see if we can identify some additional targets, make any necessary upgrades to our septic station, and try and rebuild that revenue base. We're also updating council on some of the unplanned incidents that have occurred this year. So we had the lightning strike, the fire hall, in which we have hard costs and soft costs. So on the hard cost side, we've got some invoices that have come in, some that are outstanding. And then there's all the staff time that went into all of those assessments and repairs over the summer. So without all the staff time, we're looking at about 19,000 related to that lightning strike. We've got the fire department provincial employment and the 2025 grant assumption. So we've made some adjustments to our paid on call compensation structure. And so there's an opportunity to look at the revenue that was generated in 2024 on some provincial deployments, reserve that money for use next year where budgetary considerations are tight, as a means of mitigating some of those costs. We've also confirmed the intention to pursue at least another 50,000 grant as it relates to our Fire Smart program. The combined impact from both of those things, trying to offset some of the cost pressures in 2025 in the fire department. Another unplanned incident, council will probably recall, is the boat well pipe break earlier this year where we had water issues throughout the city. We still have some repairs outstanding, but just providing an updated cost that was unplanned, unaccounted for, being $45,809. For Public Works Capital, the purchase of the tractor and the grinder attachment were 2023 projects that carried over into 2024. So updating the 2024 numbers for that. We've also had a break-in at the Public Works Yard, which a portion of replacing some of that tools and equipment would be capital in nature. And a portion would be operating expense, some smaller dollar items. So some mitigating actions have been taken, but that's the reality of our property insurance right now, in which the deductible is out of reach for scenarios like this. And then for community services capital, this is a relatively small dollar item, but it's one in which we might not have the 2025 bylaw done, and community services team would like to be able to engage in the procurement to make sure that the water bottle filler is ready to go at Central Park when the sports teams start again in the spring. So this is estimated to be in the $6,000 range. So just looking for approval to begin procuring that and making sure that it's ready to go before the 2025 season begins.
Thank you. Councilor Egan.
I just want to go back to the revenue expectations for select sale of services. And I'm wondering, first of all, is that we're not getting the projected revenue from the increases in the rentals of our properties, our community properties, because I've heard from many community organizations that they simply can't afford to use our services because it's way too expensive, and that some of them may be canceling their events indefinitely.
So that's not the area that we're adjusting revenue expectations for tonight anyways. The area is development services permit fees for new construction activities.
Okay.
And for our subditch revenues.
Okay, but if you go to the planning department, I'm just wondering if largely those revenues aren't coming in because the planning department wasn't fully functioning.
So there's a different leadership team in place now in terms of development services as well. So we have to recognize the fact that.
I know, but we're looking back over 8 months or 10 months almost now, so.
So the reality is that team has now had a chance to scrub the permit fees, look at all the development applications, and provide an updated base case and best case scenario. And even getting to the best case, it's still below the revenue expectations that were in place under the previous administration.
Okay, thank you.
CEO.
Just want to make sure that it's well understood by people who may be in the gallery or watching, is that a budget is a educated assumption on what's going to happen in the city. We may not meet all of those goals or have the outcome may not be what we assumed it might be. But just like making a budget at home, this is not an exact science when we make a budget. It is not the actuals. It is what we are hoping to see based on previous numbers and educated projections. So we may have had a good year or a good couple of years that led the department to believe this would be the level of revenue, and it's not this year, and that may change next year. But again, just remember, this is not an exact, budgeting is not an exact science.
Councilor Charney.
I would like to go to the LGCAP funds. You're talking about purchasing 2 electric vehicles. What is the cost of one of those vehicles?
So we're estimating about 55,000 plus any applicable taxes.
And this comes through the 175,000?
No, so I think the verbiage says that we would be looking for approval to purchase up to 3, and we would place the rest in reserves while we finish the rest of the plan for those funds.
What is the 175,795 going to be used for?
So the electric vehicles would come out of that amount
Yeah,
and any
that's good.
residual would be placed in reserves.
Okay, yeah, I think that's what maybe I
So
didn't answer
we,
clearly.
in our budget, plan to have the 1 year installment of LG cap funds. So that
Right.
would have been in that $90,000 range. We ended up getting prepaid the 3 years all in one shot, which allows us to try and make better informed plan on where to invest that money and when over that 3 year horizon.
Okay, okay. And so the savings is going to go in the reserve, like we don't have to buy the other vehicles that we had planned, right?
So what we'd be looking to do is try and meet some of the pickup requests that were in last year's capital budget without spending any additional funds. And so the Director of Public Works and Engineering has agreed to trial one of these electric vehicles and to free up a pickup that can go into the Public Works fleet. And then there would be other vehicles potentially for use on other teams if we need them, such as the bylaw team. And they would have access to a pickup and an EV to divide and conquer the work based on those two vehicles. And again, trying to save that second pickup request in the budget.
And the lightning strike at the fire station, I assume it hit the antenna. Is that not grounded? Is the antenna not grounded?
Well, I'm assuming, coming from a farm background, I'm assuming it is grounded. But those grounds can only hold so much, right? I mean, it all depends what the voltage was when it hit it.
Mhm.
So they can only take so much and then they start bleeding out, so.
Okay, I just wondered why it did so much damage. It was grounded.
Installed by a professional. That professional would have grounded it. Good.
Councillor Richard.
Well, I think the comments were already covered with the vehicles, and I was also wondering, I think that we're gonna see probably another budget amendment next year, because I don't think we're gonna see the revenues from rental services, which is a different department, not planning, and you've already mentioned that, but I'm just concerned with how we're gonna end up, because I've heard the same things as Councillor Egan, that nobody wants to rent any of the buildings in 2025 with these high costs. So I think we'll have to really kind of look around and see what we're gonna do. That's a concern, that's my concern with the FTEs, because if we're gonna spend more on FTEs, and I know that the revenues are down, I've also heard this, so anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
CAO.
Council will be seeing a new rates and fees bylaw coming before them, before the end of the year, because we'd like to get that passed before January 1st, because it makes administration of it a lot easier. So you'll be seeing that quite shortly, probably before the end of November. At which time council can certainly address whatever they'd like about that. However, it is important to remember that right now we are cost recovering on our recreation services 16%. So there's a balance between what is too much and what is too little. And I will 100% tell you what we had been charging previously to this year was much too little.
So when was the last time we had an increase?
For some of these services, 2007, 2004. Some of these services have never been paid for at all. So it is important that council recognize that recreation, although will never cost recover 100%, that leaves it to the tax. So if we're not cost recovering from users, that means everybody's taxes goes up to cover that cost. So that specific user group isn't bearing the cost required of them, and it's being spread amongst the community. So if it's the map reading club and they're paying $5 an hour for something that costs $10 an hour, that other $5 an hour has to go to the tax revenue or to the tax base, right? So I get what the councillor is saying, but that is a very different discussion around when we come to this point, you will 100% have opportunity to address this, and maybe we want to change it, but recognizing that not everybody wants to pay for other people's recreation services. So
Councillor
it's a
Holden.
balance.
Thank you. So we are in a difficult situation here because I understand the challenges that we are facing: rising property insurance cost, declining revenues, unexpected costs when we are talking about the lightning strike, the boat well, the fire department funding gaps, as well as the long-term budget pressures. But I have a few concerns based on this proposed amendment financial plan. For me, it's we are increasing our dependence on debt. So the slight increase in proceeds from debt reflected in both bylaws indicates that growing reliance on borrowing to fund capital projects. That's one of my biggest concerns. Next one, rising expenditures across departments. The amended plan shows increased expenditures across various departments, especially in protected services and public works. This trend may reflect either rising cost or new initiatives being undertaken. Capital projects expansion and sustainability. The increase in funding allocated to public works and some other capital projects raises questions about our long-term sustainability. Revenue adjustments and are marginal. So although the amendments slightly increase projected grants and net taxation revenue, the adjustments are modest compared to the expenditures increases. So that we have to keep an eye on that. The use of reserves and transfers. Both plans rely on transfers from reserves and unrestricted surplus to cover budget gaps. So I understand the challenges. These are the concerns here. If we go back to taxation net, so how are we supposed to get from 2.9 million to 13.8 million in 2025? I just want to have a good understanding of if there is going to be an impact on the tax payers.
So to balance the operational budget for the purposes of the amendment, things like property insurance, additional costs of the fire department, the lack of sale of services would be covered by taxation revenue in the interim. Council will have the opportunity to reset a 5-year plan very shortly, in which case, and we'll have that conversation next week to kick that off, right? So in the interim, yes, taxation revenues do have to cover that shortfall. The budget has to balance. But council will have the opportunity to review the mitigating actions that have been taken by staff already and to make very tough decisions on level of service of what they want in the community going forward that will reduce that number. So the budget amendment is a 5-year amendment, has to balance. But council will have the opportunity to reset and agree on property taxation levels for 2025 through 2029. That conversation will kick off next week.
Councilor Chart.
I think the comments have been addressed. We're going to have tough decisions to make. And the CAO had her comments, and we understand that there's a lot of costs. Maybe we're not receiving everything, but sometimes a 50% increase in 1 year is too hard for a lot of organizations to swallow. That's how we feel as council. That's all. I know we're not recovering, but at the same time, how much can the citizens afford to pay for events? It's just, if we're not going to have any rental, we're going to see very little revenue.
So this is one of the reasons why the Recreation Committee is meeting once a month, because there's some very glaring information coming forward to people who are not aware how this works. They're quite aware of it now, and they see the challenges. And that's why we do have some of these committees, so people that are on the, that are not akin to this every single day, that can sit on these committees, can actually see the struggle. Struggle is real, has been since I came in 2008. Yeah, we've got some work to do. We had work to do last year, and we have work to do this year. CEO, so.
Yeah, so as we're moving towards, the new budget, and which we'll have further discussions on next week, ultimately, I think to answer Councillor Ogun's questions is that the city has been underfunded by its ratepayers and service users for many years, and that is what's put us in this situation. We don't have a sufficient operating budget. We have previously been relying on a large amount of money coming out of reserves to cover operational costs, which is not the point of reserves. The point of reserves is to be able to deal with things like our wastewater treatment plant and our infrastructure that's failing. Right? So this community has been underpaying for the services that are currently being provided. If council would like to see a reduction in service, those are the hard conversations you will have to have in order to offset the costs of operating in the community. You know, if we just think about new subdivisions that are being developed, we're going to have 2 new parks. Who's going to cut the grass in those parks? Who's going to pay for playground equipment in those parks? Right? Every road that needs to be plowed adds work and services that have to be paid for. And in order to do that, you have to have staff in order to be able to do them. And so there is an increase in all of those things, and every single thing costs more than it did 5 years ago. So ultimately, we're in a position where if we would like to be able to continue to put money away for those big projects that are critical infrastructure, residents have to be prepared to pay for the services that they're using and for the taxes that are required to operate. Otherwise, we continue to take $1 million out of the bank every year in order to operate, which means we do not put money in the bank, which means when something fails, if you're Soyuz and your water sewer system fails and you have no money in the bank, that's the situation you end up in. So we can recognize that maybe community groups, you know, are upset about paying more, but if they want the services they're currently getting, there is a cost to them. Whether they pay them as user fees or they pay them as taxation is irrelevant. They're paid for by the community members. And they have to be paid for, or they come out of the bank, and we do not have money for the critical infrastructure repairs that need to happen.
Thank you. Councillor Charney, your light's on.
Yeah, I just wanted to go to the Schedule A and ask, are we on this one, or are we waiting for this? Okay. Transportation services. Can you explain what the transportation services is? Is that our bus, the
Largely public works.
public works?
Yes.
Okay, okay. Okay,
So any of the public works costs that don't roll up into environmental health services in terms of solid waste collection or to the cemetery or to our water and sewer funds are in transportation.
okay, okay. The community gas works tax, why does it go down so drastically in 2026? And then 2027, 2028? Basically nothing. Under funding sources.
So that's use of the reserve to pay for capital that's been assigned to those projects. So we established capital over the 5 years. Obviously, a lot of that capital is front end loaded. So there's less capital defined that far out that would require use of those funds. So gas tax reserves can be used for recreation. They can be used for underground infrastructure, things of that nature. So there's less reliance on that reserve in the future because we have less capital associated with the out years of the plan. If you look at the total amount of capital, we have $39 million in 2024, and we're down to $2.5 million in 2028. Now, a large part of that, again, will be recovery, right? So that makes sense that you'd have all the bridge construction and all those things in the front end of the plan. But the other capital that council considers is also generally front end loaded because there's more clarity and vision towards some of the near term projects than there would be in those out years.
Okay.
So we have a recommendation in front of us. The council gives first reading to the City of Merritt 2024-2028 Financial Plan Amendment Bylaw 2379-2024 amended with the removal of .1. Councilor Egan, Councilor Petrosi, any other questions on that? Those in favor? Opposed? Second recommendation that council gives second reading to the City of Merritt 2024-2028 Financial Plan Amendment by Law as amended 2379-2024. Councilor Egan again, Councilor anyone else? Councilor Petrosi again. Any comments on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Recommendation that council gives third reading to the City of Merritt 2024-2028 financial plan. Amendment bylaw 2379-2024 is amended. Councilor Egan again, Councilor Petrosi again. All those in favor? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. What is the plan on seeing point one? Do we know when that's going to happen? Or do we have any kind of estimated timeline on that
Is next week a council meeting or a committee meeting?
meeting?
Is it council or committee? So we can add it to that if you like.
Sure. The quicker the better.
Around the FTE will be done and closed. Thank you.
Moving on, 9.1. 2787 Pooley Avenue, request for reconsideration of invoice to be introduced by Ms. Elbrick, with Mr. Jim Rabbit available to speak to the issue. CO.
Thank you, Your Worship. The item before you this evening is a request for reconsideration by council of the recovery of costs for remedial work that was performed by the city contractors as per section 15.1B of the Good Neighbor bylaw.
Thank you. Mr. Rabbit. You're up, sir. Just get you to push that button in front of you there. You're live. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. I first wish to thank you for the opportunity of coming and airing my grievance this evening. I'm going to try and stick to my notes to keep this as short as possible. This came to my attention when I got a bill from the city for nearly $4,000 for doing some weed control on property which one of our company owns. I put together a letter which I hope has all been circulated to you, and I asked that there be basically three things. And one of them was I wanted to get some photos of the property prior to work, photos after the work, and a breakdown of the contractor's bill. Mr. Bates, your bylaw officer, contacted me after I had hand delivered the letter to his worship, who had given me the breakdown on the process of how you dispute a bill such as this. After about a week, Mr. Bates had phoned several times, and so had Miss Brick. I was able to arrange a mutual time to meet with Mr. Bates at City Hall. And there's a few things I have to get clarified here because the paper I was sent, the documents that I was sent with the notice indicated some things and didn't indicate others. So I wanted to get some clarification on exactly where I stood with the bylaw officer. And so I asked him several questions, and I'll refer to my notes. This is what happens when you get old. If you're lucky. Here we go. Here we go. One of the questions I asked your bylaw officer was the bylaw says that you've got authority to do certain things. And he informed me that he'd been given the authority and the mandate to go out and find properties that he felt was out of order and have them corrected. So my question to him was, if on this particular property, did you receive any complaints from the neighbors, from council, competitors? He said no. That it was within his authority to make the decision. I said, okay. So on this authority, who do you refer to before you decide to make the decision to bring in a contractor? And he informed me that it was his decision. And fair enough. So I asked him, well, why didn't I get a phone call? You know, we'd cleaned this property up earlier in the year at your request, and we'd received no negative comments. We did basically the same job this time, except for the half acre right by our yard entrance. And I said, why didn't I get a call? He said, because I don't have to. Now, I spent half my lifetime in public office or working around public office. And I always felt that, for the most part, politicians and the members that worked for the city were always working for the benefit of the community. That didn't mean that there weren't differences. But I really believe that there's some errors in your bylaw. If you're giving an individual authority such as that, he's allowed to make the decision whether a property is safe or unsafe, whether that property is a fire hazard or not, whether that property is got to be cleaned up or not, and he gets to determine the length of time that you're allowed to clean it up. And I think that the system is flawed. I think that the attitude of your bylaw officer was flawed. And the one flaw that's in here that I think is detrimental to both you and the community is the bottom line that says, if you don't pay this bill, it'll get put on your taxes. So this means I have to pay that bill and then go to court to sue you. Because this is a matter of principle as far as I'm concerned. I can show by his photos that there was no more than approximately a half acre out of a 13-acre parcel that this contractor worked on. And so I'm about to pay a half an acre out of the 13 acres and no more. And I will be going for the balance.
Thank you.
So, and I don't mean that as a threat. I'm showing that as a flaw in your bylaw. And a flaw in your direction.
CL.
So I probably run out of time. The red light is on.
Just stay there. CL,
Um,
respond, please.
The bylaw is passed by council. It is a pretty standard bylaw compared to other communities. There's no significant difference in how this is managed. It is delegated authority, which is in the scope of the bylaw officer's work. This is why we have people in different positions. If somebody had to oversee every decision that was made in the community, either yourselves or myself, we would have no time. We would be in decision-making mode all the time. That is why we delegate authority to our staff who are trained. I've seen photos of the property. It is surrounded by residential properties. The grass was long and certainly was a fire hazard. It could have caused significant damage if there had been a grass fire in that area. So in order to have the community be fire smarted, it's essential that these kinds of properties be kept into a appropriate length of grass. The section in regards to it being applied to taxes meets the legislation of the province of British Columbia. It's not really an option for us. If we want to collect this, it does go to your taxes. It's again part of the legislation. So there's nothing outstanding in this bylaw that the bylaw officer misinterpreted. He was given direction, and our responsibility is to enforce through bylaw and policy, the direction of council. So that's what he was doing. In regards to not receiving a phone call, we set a level of service in bylaws and such things that we know we can actively meet, right? So if we said we're going to send a letter and call everybody until they clean it up, then ultimately you would need 5 or 6 bylaw officers, right? So there's a minimum level of service that we know we can meet, which is the letter, which is the requirement under the legislation to notify the person and to give them an official or an appropriate amount of time to get it cleaned up, which is pretty standard. I think it's usually about a month, 2 weeks, 2 weeks under the bylaw. Again, very typical for most communities. I've reviewed this bylaw in regards to several communities because we are bringing it for update. So I have read probably 15 or 20 bylaws from other communities. This is very, very much in line with the other communities and how it's done.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Rabbit. My understanding is on July 10th, the letter was mailed to you and you received the letter?
July 11th.
Yeah, but you chose not to go and clean up the property?
No.
Or can you tell me the history on that?
Okay. The short answer is we didn't finish the job. Out of the 13 acres, MCON is using some of it. They sent their crew in and they cleaned up around their equipment. The chap that lives next to our property parks his truck there. In lieu, he normally cuts the grass in that area. That's why we left it to the last. And the balance of it, we do. And just to give you a rundown, we actually started cutting back in June. And on July 18th, 19th, 22nd, 23rd, 25th, I had 2 men out on each of those days.
When the city cleaned up on July 31, you're saying that there was only a half acre that they
There was a
had?
1/4 acre on one side and a 1/4 acre on the other side.
Okay, okay.
And there's still some along the fence that neither party cleaned up, along the west fence. And I've left that to be a bit of a hazard because they keep cutting the fence between our property and the trailer park. And they come in and hide their drugs and various things such as that. And so we leave it, we've actually dumped loads that we're storing in that area to slow them down,
Okay.
discourage them.
Councilor Rogan?
Thank you. So I see 2 situations here. So one is about communication. Communication, I think that it can be improved both ways. then you received the letter. So you start working on that and it was not completed. So maybe if you had approached the city, it would have been extended an extension, something could have been done. But also the communication about the city in level of service. The level of service stated in our bylaw, I think that it would work for bigger cities. I think that this is a smaller city. I don't see a problem, adding any, even an email following up the letter. I think that it would be appropriate. I think that the system can be improved. Now, the other concern is, or situation, it's the amount of the invoice. So based on what was left, what was not completed, so you feel that that invoice doesn't reflect the work done, correct?
Well, almost $500 of that, actually over $500. There's 1 hour of the bylaw officer's time that was added to the bill. And there was almost $500 for administration.
So it seems simple to say the communication can improve. However, many of our properties in the community are owned by people who we don't know and who live out of country or belong to a numbered company, but we don't have anything beyond their mailing address because that is all they're required to provide us as the business license. So what happens then is if we have to provide a level of service to someone like Mr. Rabbit, we have to provide the same level of service to any other property owner in the community. That could result in a significant amount of time trying to identify the owner of that property with whom to communicate via phone or email. So the letter that he received is the standard of communication that is required under this bylaw and is the standard of communication which is manageable so that we can treat all property owners equally. Because if we start to treat some property owners differently and we're setting a different tiered standard, then our bylaw will actually be brought to court and we will probably lose.
Councillor
Right?
Chair.
It will be challenged in court. Sorry, just the second thing, as part of your rates and fees bylaw, every time we send out this kind of work, there is an administrative fee of 15% plus the staff costs. It's in your bylaw that you approved. It's been in the bylaw that has been approved over numerous councils. There's always an administrative fee.
Councillor Chair.
Well, I'm not disagreeing that we have the fee and we have the letter. I think there's also the human aspect of the situation that Mr. Rabbit has been in our community for decades. And being that we do have the information and that we do have a phone number, I think that being able to pick up the phone in a situation like this is handy. It's unfortunate that we only have a mailing address for some customers, and maybe that's a process that in future we will get an email and a telephone number and things going forward with the technology we have today. But this isn't the first level of this type of inquiry that I've had in the last 2 weeks regarding this type of work. And it's a concern for all of us on council and for the staff. And I'm not taking a side. I'm just making a general comment that I've had a lot of these comments in the last couple of weeks myself. And Mr. Rabbit's a valuable citizen in our community, and it's concerning. So I'm not disagreeing with anything that you're saying, and I'm just giving an opinion, but
That treating some citizens differently than other owners of property is a significant challenge to your process, right? You cannot, just because Mr. Rabbit has been in the community for a long time and is a valued citizen, makes him no less valuable as a property owner than Joe Blow who lives in China.
I think
You
the fact
have to
that
treat everyone equally according to the bylaws. Otherwise, there is no point in having bylaws and there's no point in having staff do the work.
I think the fact that Mr. Rabbit was also working with us when we were looking at properties, when we were considering spots to put our temporary housing is also, he goes above and beyond. And look, I am not the CAO. We're allowed to speak. And these are our comments that we have. He's a valuable citizen. And sometimes I think a phone call, it's unfortunate that we don't have telephone numbers and email for these companies of people that we don't have, but he runs a business in the town, more than one, and we do have that information. So I'm sorry, I don't agree.
Councillor Egan.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rabbit, for attending. I'm just thinking about some of the properties in the past that we have sort of been confronted with the same kind of thing. And I know that we've given a lot more leeway when we shouldn't have. And I know we're trying to not have to do that anymore. But I agree with Councillor Etchart that there are some people that are easy to find and some people that aren't. And when we can find them, we should give them the grace that they're due. Thank you.
Councillor Charney.
I agree with communication. I think that maybe we have to go a little bit further in the future now. Instead of just having a mailing address, maybe we try to get telephone numbers, maybe we try to get emails. You know, I think we have to make that that effort. I'd also like to go back. If only a half acre was cleared, then the bill from the contractor was $3,360 for a half acre. My property is a half acre, and I would love to get that amount of money to clear a half acre. I would like to have seen a breakdown of where the $3,360 came from. And can I finish, or should I wait for your answer? And then
No, you know
come
what?
back?
We're not going to respond because ultimately, you know, we don't want to call Mr. Rabbit, who is a, you know, a super invaluable member of the community, we don't want to say he was incorrect. So.
Okay, and I would also like to know, I'd like to go back to what Councillor Egan was touching on. We have had another property owner come and dispute a bill. Was there a precedent set on the payment of that bill? Did that property owner pay the full amount of that bill?
We do. Nacio, do you want to respond to that?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, there has been an appeal in the past in 2023. I believe it was in August of 2023 for an invoice. And ultimately council upheld the decision and upheld the invoices.
So they paid the full amount.
Council upheld the full invoices for that property.
Okay.
Councillor Baxter.
Thank you, Mr. Rabbit. Just to clarify, you never once called the city to say, hey, look, I need an extension or I am cleaning up the property, because I know in the past, my parents had an unsightly property and I called the city saying I was cleaning it up and I would have it done by a certain date, and the city worked with me that I could do that by that certain date. So you didn't go and call them to say, hey, look, I am going to start work.
No, it was quite evident. You can tell by one of his photos where they're with his before photo. You can see where it was cut and where the employee stopped at the end of the day. And he was transferred to another job. And I admit that we're at fault at that. And I want to make one thing very clear, because your CEO seems to think that I'm asking you for special privileges or special favors. And that's the last thing I'd like to do. And I think that sometimes the attitude of some of your staff puts you as elected people in a tough spot. They got a tough job.
Mr. Rabbit, we'll leave that right there. Okay, we're discussing reimbursement here, not the staff situation.
I wasn't referring to
Yeah.
anybody in the room.
No, I'm just saying, Councillor Ogun.
Yeah, thank you. So I am not in the position to waive this bill. I feel that there was, again, problems with communication both ways. I feel that the system needs to be improved. I would like to uphold this invoice because the staff did what the bylaw says. Nothing else, nothing outside the bylaw. We need to review that bylaw. We need to add, to add emails, add any other type of contact information. That's something that we have to change. But they didn't do anything, in that aspect. So, and that's the reason why I would like to uphold that invoice.
Councillor Petrosi.
Thanks, Mr. Rabbit. Going back to the map, can we go back to the map of the property? Where is the quarter acre and the other quarter acre on that property? Where is that actually located? Yeah, if you can just point it where.
This is the area he shows that we cut.
Yeah.
Actually, you own the property down here,
Cleared. This area, this quarter acre here, this quarter acre over here. This is the part of the property.
And the rest of the property was,
And down here, we did the machine and the men that I mentioned there, they did along there. This is the backside that we did not do. And was we did not.
Did the city do it?
No.
okay, thank you.
Councilor Rogan, do you have any more or are you good?
I just want to add that we are not making any exception. I would not, that's not the situation here. So we are raising some concerns to the bylaw. But again, so I feel like staff follow the bylaw, so I don't have that situation. Okay, thank you.
You. Are you gonna push that button? Councilor Baxter.
I'm with Councillor Oldwood. The staff did their job. They tried. And Mr. Rabbit, you had an opportunity to call and say, hey, look, I'm making progress on it. Give me time. And you chose not to.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Abbott. Appreciate it. I'll just get you to push that button.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to come here
Thank
and so be it.
Thank you.
See you again.
Thank you. Okay, so before us, we have a recommendation that council direct staff to uphold the invoice number 8479 in the amount of $3,935.25. Councilor Rogan, Councilor Baxter. Any other questions on this? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 9.2, development variance permit at 1761 Ban Street. That council grants development variance to vary Schedule B, Table 1 of the City of Merritt Subdivision and Development Servicing Bylaw number 1187, 1987, to allow for reduced right-of-way for proposed subdivision road. Can I have a mover on that one, please? Councilor Ogan, Councilor Petrosi. Any questions on that? Anybody want to address this? Councilor Charney.
Pocket parking. That's, when I look at pocket parking, I called it up online and all it looked like was parallel parking to me. So, I've just got a few questions here. So I guess it would be towards Mr. Green. Is there going to be a curb where they park on the other side of the curb? So if so, is not driving up on this curb all the time going to break it down? And then we as a city have to constantly fix it up. And secondly, if we're parking on the other side of the curb, the snow plow comes, where is that snow going to go? It can't go into where the car is, or it's going to block the cars in. So I just had some questions about that. And if it is going to be pocket parking, I think we have to be very specific on tollway zones if someone is not behind that curb because of emergency vehicles. But the pocket parking was something that I just had some questions about.
CEO.
I can answer those, Mr. Mayor. We already see this kind of parking in much of the community with people driving over the curb already. For instance, on the street that Councillor Baxter lives on, many people pocket park. And in fact, every driveway has a curb. Shouldn't say that. Many driveways in the city have curbs. Again, on Councillor Baxter Street, everybody has to drive over the same height of curb to get into the driveway as the rest of the curb, which really kind of hurts your car. So the Director of Public Works and Fire have reviewed this plan and do not think it will negatively impact operations. So snow removal has been considered, fire vehicles are considered, but ultimately in order to make this subdivision get maximized for the number of residences that will be developed, this is the ideal plan. There is going to be posting of no parking. And as we get to our new enforcement bylaws that will be coming in January-ish, we will be able to very effectively enforce those no parking signs. So I think in the diagram, there's some specific areas where there is going to be no parking in order to ensure that there's no impact on emergency vehicles or operations.
Counselor Baxter.
So there, because right now on that street near Armstrong Street, there is a problem. City Works cannot get through there with their garbage truck when people are parking on either side. Snowplows cannot get through because I know my friends lived on that street. And it was like, as soon as two people parked there, they even had a hard time getting through.
Counselor.
So when that part of this development was done, there was a variance given. It does not meet the current operational needs. However, this variance is recommended by the Director of Public Works and the fire department as something they can work within operationally. But you're correct, when people are parking on both sides of the road, even in many parts of the city, when people are parking on both sides of the road, it's very challenging for our works vehicles and our garbage truck and our fire truck to get through. And people are parking, illegally or whatever. But this is, again, we can put no parking signs out, but also the new legislation for housing requires less on-site parking and more roadway parking. However, on that particular roadway, it may not be appropriate, but the way they've designed it, which is why specifically Director Green asked for a design that he felt that he could manage, because he did not want to see the same issue in the rest of the development.
I'm just getting back to the changes on housing from the Minister in BC Housing, is that obviously parking is no big deal because you can park anywhere you want. So we're just going with what he suggests. So Councilor Egan.
Thank you. I just wanted to note that as I'm looking at this, it reminds me of the parking that's available at, what is it, Rotary or Parkview over by the Rotary Park. It's much the same as this. So, I mean, I imagine that the emergency vehicles can get through there too, and they're pretty narrow, and people do pocket park all over the place.
Any other questions? So we have a recommendation. We have a mover seconder, yes? No? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. 9.3 Development Variance Permit 2702 Nickel Avenue. Recommendation that council grants development variance permit 2024-005 to vary section 4.14.2.A of the zoning bylaw 2284-2020 to allow for increased fence of 1.8 meters high between front parcel line and front building line instead of the permitted 125 maximum at 2702 Nickel Avenue. Councilor Petrosi, Councilor Hogan. Any questions on this one? Councilor Baxter.
Because this is a gateway to our community, is there any way the fence could be higher? And also because on the back side of the hotel, the fence is leaning towards the neighbors. Is there any way that's gonna get fixed?
I would suggest that higher, I don't know if they make chain link fence higher than that. Do they make chain link fence higher than that?
We're talking 8 feet here, are we not?
Yeah, this is an 8-foot fence.
It's 8 foot, right? It's 8 foot.
Oh, sorry. Oh, I thought it was 8.
Okay.
Oh, I thought it was 8. It's only 6. Okay.
Okay.
So 1.8. Yeah. Sorry, it's only 6. And yes, we will be looking to them to fix the other fencing, because that technically is an unsightly property. If your fence is falling over and into your neighbor's property, it is covered under the good neighbor bylaw as one of the unsightlies. So that will be dealt with. This fence, as you might have noted in the briefing note, will have some sort of artwork on it to make it more attractive as a gateway to our city. It's all been reviewed by fire. I don't know. I don't know if any higher makes it less attractive, makes it look more like a prison. I'm not really.
Because right next door is the tow yard and their fence is higher.
Yes, it's an 8-foot fence. Councilor Chern.
They're proposing a chain link fence, correct?
No.
Or is it vinyl? But I thought The Fire Smart says no vinyl. I'm confused on the material for the fence.
Yes,
Our representative from DC
Yes.
Housing, come on up.
let's do that. Let's get you to state your name and push the red button. There we go.
I'm Tyler Baker. I'm the Director of Development for the interior with BC Housing. I'm happy to answer any questions. So the material is white vinyl, mostly in consultation with the fire department and the first responders. We changed the gates to chain link with privacy slats so that they can see kind of what's on the other side when they approach. So the material, I think the staff report did note that the fire department noted it wasn't compliant with the Fire Smart guidelines. And we're happy to continue talking about the materiality, but it's a bit of a trade-off. You know, it's chain link or vinyl. So if we wanted a more residential look, that's the white vinyl fence. If you want a more institutional industrial look, that's the chain link fence. Our preference is the white vinyl just for appearances to blend in with the adjacent residential areas a little bit better. But if something else is preferred, we can look at that as well. And I'll just one more comment kind of to the first thing. The two reasons we're posing the fence is visual barrier and security. So the height of 6 feet is sufficient for most vehicles and people to not see in or out and provide that visual separation. Higher than that, it does tend to be a little bit imposing for people who are accessing the shelter and for the neighborhood that it's around, where the fences are generally much lower than that. And we are, it's a residential property, so we are trying to make it look as residential as possible and less industrial. And then the safety aspect, that a higher fence doesn't necessarily make it more safe. A 6-foot fence will achieve the definition of the property that we're looking for.
Councilor Baxter.
Along the backside, the fence is higher than 6 feet. So would you put it so it's equal along the whole backside, neighboring the neighbors, and then just do the 6 feet on the sides and front?
I'm not sure of the height of the back fence, but we're keeping that as is, and all of the new fencing would be 6 feet.
Councilor Turner.
And we'll repair that, the one that's falling down.
If I had my druthers, I would choose the white vinyl because I think it looks much more attractive than chain link fence. And I understand your gate will be chain link fence. And especially if you're going to put artwork on it.
It's pretty hard to put artwork on chain link.
Yeah, well, no. You can have a board and put it on.
They're talented.
Don't get nasty now. Don't get picky. But if we have to have a fence, I think the white vinyl will fit in much better and it can look attractive.
Thank you. Councilor Egan.
Thank you. There is a new product out, and I know my girlfriend has it at her place in Kelowna, and it's metal. Or some kind of metal. And I'm telling you, she put it up specifically. She lives in the north end of Kelowna, very near where Tent City is. And there's no breaking in or climbing her fence. And nobody can see in and out. So, that's something to look at. I can get you the name of it as well.
For sure. Please send it along. I mean, we're looking to do this very quickly. So suppliers who can do it and get it on site really quickly. And generally that's products that are widely available. So we know the white vinyl fence, there's contractors in Merritt who can deliver it in the speed we need.
And we've got the residents that are wanting the fence up as ASAP. So any other questions on this? Oh, see you.
I think it's important to remember this is not meant to be the final location for the shelter.
Yes.
So of course, investment of those funds, but as we move forward to if there is a request for a shelter and where that final location might be, those kinds of things that Councillor Egan brought forward that we can make sure that are being done in any location that may be a final shelter. If that is approved in the community, we will ask for those sorts of things 100%.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you for straightening that out for us. 9.4, 2024 CPFDRR grant application. The council directs staff to apply for the October 2024 UBCM Community Emergency Preparedness Fund Disaster Risk Reduction Grant Funding System. I need a mover, please. Councillor Ogan, Councillor Baxter, any questions on this one? Pretty straightforward. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.5. Transit option to revert to pre-flood transit routes in 2025. Recommendation that council accept the report for information and discussion purposes. Councilor Hogan, Councilor Baxter. I'm not sure how many here realize that we still don't have transit down at that end of town. So I think with the bridge coming online, that transit was being very careful until everything had been sorted out. So no fault there. I think it's we've had several conversations with them about returning some of the lines. So we'll bring that in for discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.6 discounts. Recommendation that council direct staff to advertise and offer a 15% discount on NVAC yearly memberships and a 10% discount on punch cards, monthly memberships, and merchandise during the month of December 2024. Councilor Petrosi. Councilor Edgert. Any questions on this? Oh, here we go. Councilor Baxter.
Have we looked at different discounts? Like 10% off discount and 5% off different stores? So we could save the city a little.
So this is ultimately council's decision based on the discounts that have been offered previously, which I believe are in the briefing note. The point of doing discounts at this time of year, I'm sure you can imagine, everybody's giving Christmas presents or working on resolutions. So ultimately, the goal is that more people will purchase at this period in time. And I'm going to guess, and I can't remember from the briefing note if there's a spike. But we can certainly track that this year. So I don't suggest going down too low because then it's not worth the time. Whereas if we have a reasonable discount that people feel like they get a benefit from it, then we end up having more money in the bank at the beginning of the year rather than waiting to see if people purchase.
Councilor Hogan.
I feel like the goal is to increase sales, right? So, and like you said, specifically in this season. So I did a comparative analysis from 2022, 2023 versus 2018 and 2019. So the data indicates a significant drop in sales and revenue when the discount was deducted from 20% to 15%. So I feel like we should do the opposite. Quite frankly, I would like to propose to increase it to 20% because with the data is indicating that that's when we had a difference in revenue. It was 42.3%. So that's a big, and if we implement a good marketing strategy, so right now, an early marketing strategy, it would have good results. So I would like to stick to 20% and 10% for the discount memberships.
Yeah, and I think this goes back to that like balancing act, right? Like we want to make sure, and I think Council Hogan's correct, we have a good enough discount so that people, instead of buying that 1 month membership or that punch pass, they purchase a big membership, a 6 month or 1 year membership. And that's guaranteed revenue in the bank versus, they try it out for a month because they're not sure it's of value to them.
I think also we have to take into consideration that there are people who have a hard time even going to the pool every once in a while in the community. So I think anything we can do in December, being Christmas, and of course, there's going to be a 2-week Christmas break. That's probably where we'll see some more usage. So we have, I'm going to read this again, just so we're all aware of what it is that council directs staff to advertise and offer a 15% discount on NVAC yearly memberships and 10% discount on punch cards, monthly memberships, merchandise during the month of December 2024. Move the second.
And I think Councillor Hogan was requesting a friendly amendment to that.
But I need to make the friendly amendment, Councillor Hogan. I'll get you to push your button there.
So I would like to switch from 15% to 20% and keep the 10% for discount cards.
On the amendment, any questions on the amendment?
Clarify, did we have a first and second on
Yes,
originally?
Yep.
So you just have to clarify
Okay.
with the
The seconder and the mover, everybody's cool with that? Okay. So, as amended, no, not as amended. Thank you, birthday girl. So basically now it will be that council directs staff to advertise and offer 20% discount on NVAC yearly memberships and a 10% discount on punch cards, monthly memberships, merchandise during the month of December 2024. So 20 from 15. All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Letter of support, TNV, recommendation that council direct staff to write a letter of support for Merritt and Nicola Valley Destination Marketing Society 2024 Rural Economic Diversification and Infrastructure Program Grant Application. Councillor Ogan? Councillor Egan? Any questions? Councillor Ogan?
Oh, it's
Oh, is that from the last time?
Yeah, no, I just want to mention that I would like to support this project. I feel like it's going to boost the local tourism. The key component here it is that we need to have a strategy where we can encourage people staying in Merritt to increase their stay. So that could be the key component in my mind. So if they are staying for one day, so if we are able to encourage them to have reasons for them to stay longer, that's going to be a great deal for our local economy, specifically in the tourism area. Thank you.
Councillor Baxter?
So I just want to clarify that we're not in competition with them for this grant that they're going for, right?
No, we wouldn't be. No, we would have put a full stop to that if we were. It's happened before. And we go back. Councillor Charney?
I just wanted to question the accommodation. The accommodation for $18,000 a year, so that the city is paying for this $18,000? Oh, I'm on the wrong one? Which
Yeah.
one am I on?
We are on 9.8.
Oh, shoot.
It kind of overlaps. The
Oh,
pages kind of stick
right.
together.
Yeah, I must have gotten them out of order.
It's okay. It's your birthday. We can let it go.
Yeah, well, go to mine, go to mine.
CEO.
I just wonder if we didn't get any information from them in regards to what the grant, what they're applying for. And what their intentions are for the money other than like the associated tourism assets in our region. I'm wondering as the council, liaison, thank you. Whew, representative, no liaison, if maybe Councillor Ogan has a better sense of what their intentions are.
You, so we have somebody from Tourism Nicola Valley, so we can have. Yeah, so I wish I could provide more, so I was unable to attend the last meeting. So, but anyway, so this application would help, like I said before, to encourage people to stay longer. So it's gonna be spending the money in tourism initiatives. So I feel like when we talk about tourism, what have you been doing in that aspect? So I think it's a good component of economic development. So all the details about that one, I don't have. I wish I could have, but I know that it's gonna be great for our communities to boost the tourism in our community.
Councillor Charney? CAO, just correct me if I'm wrong here, but some of the items that they may bring forward would have to come before us anyways for approvals and.
Yeah, and so that's my concern. My understanding, and I wasn't here at the time, but my understanding is that the electronic sign was something that they applied for before entering those discussions with the city. So what I'd hate to see is them applying for funding for something that may not align with the city's vision. And so just ensuring that they're not making a commitment to do something that the city may not support.
And that would be on them because they would need to get a hold of us and find out what rules apply and don't apply.
Just clarifying. So
Yes.
if they, just wanting to make sure council's aware that we don't know what their intention
And
is.
that's for every other group
So-
out there. If you want a letter of support and you're not going to fill us in all the way, you get the support and all of a sudden you can't do it, that's on you. Because like, as we saw with our bylaws are set by us and we'll hold our bylaws up as they are. So it's just as simple as that. Councillor Baxter.
According to this, even if we ask for more time for clarification, we don't have time.
No. Yeah, this is how it pretty much goes because I mean, they're working on a grant system as well as anybody else. So just be assured the fact that if there's something that doesn't align with our policies, it would have to be brought to us. and we would have to discuss it. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.8 Local Government Management Association Internship Program. Recommendation that council direct staff to submit the grant application for the 2025 LGMA Local Government Internship Program. Councillor Hogan, Councillor Petrosi, questions, Councillor Jarney.
Now I'm back on page.
Okay,
Okay, so I want to know why the city is providing the accommodations.
It would, yeah, it's counting as part of our share.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
and
that's what I wanted to know.
recognizing that there's a housing shortage in the community and we are going to be holding some of the trailers for staff accommodations and contractor accommodations. We felt this was a way that we might be able to entice an intern to take the position.
Okay. So it's kind of like your 50-50 type thing.
Councillor Hogan.
Yep, thank you. So, and in addition to the in-kind support of the 18,000, so we are talking about 8,000 to top off the pay plus 2,500 for professional development. Where is that money coming from?
No, so that would be coming from our operational costs. What we're seeing with this is the potential to advance a number of significant projects while training somebody on the ins and outs of municipal government. So for that $8,000-ish, we feel like that investment is going to get us some significant work moved forwards on freedom of information, records management, bylaws and policy updates, which have been neglected over the last several years. And will allow us to take some stuff off our lengthy to-do lists. So a relatively small investment that we would not have to go out to a contractor for because of this funding.
Councillor Hogan.
Yeah, so thank you for the information. I feel like it would be beneficial, for the city. So my only concern was that if we are in the position that we need that housing, is that going to have a negative impact by not having that mobile available?
Yeah.
We will have a couple of them available. So we're not anticipating, like, we're kind of holding one for health staff if we need somebody who's coming in on a locum and they can't find housing. So we've been kind of holding our furnished one available for that. And then we have staff in 2 other ones, and then we're planning on holding 1 other one for these kinds of things.
Any other questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. 9.9 2024 Silga Asset Management Infrastructure Deficit Seminar. Recommendation that council approves Mayor Michael Getz, Councillor Wendy Charney, Councillor Yvette Baxter, Councillor Manuel Ogun to attend the 2024 Silga Asset Management Infrastructure Deficit Seminar. And a second recommendation that funds be allocated from the council conferences and seminars account. Councillor Petrosi, Councillor Egan, any questions on this? Yeah, I was going to say. All those in favor? Carried. So, thank you. Notices of motion. Oh. I need you to push a button. Here we go.
Thank you. I would like to, let's see where I wrote down. I wrote it down here. Yes, I would like to make a motion to review the Civic Center rates based on low to no rentals due to higher costs. But I just want to make that motion click on the record, as I know we're going to be discussing it already next meeting.
Yeah. So that'll come as budget deliberation, will it not? Yes. So we don't need a motion on that, do we? No, okay.
Staff are currently reviewing each of their departments so that we can get that to you.
Any other notices of motion? Almost, kind of. Nope. Reports from council. Councillor Charney.
October 9th, I went to the open house. Thought we had a good crowd. I thought the staff did an excellent job in their presentations. Very proud of them. October 11th, I went to the open house for the ICS, and I was really impressed with the program that they have for seniors. And I also connected with a couple of my former students, which was nice. October 12th, I went to the groundbreaking, I don't know what you call that, I guess, for Maple Furniture. And a very nice family that owns that company, and it's nice to see them moving into town. October 18th, I had a Silga Zoom meeting with Councillor Etchert and quite a few other people, and Silga is coming along nicely. Then I went to the ICS Chili and Coats, and I got there around 11:30, and the majority of the coats and scarves and mitts were gone already. And then I went in the afternoon to the seniors monthly meeting where the CAO had an excellent session. She had a question and answer period, and she was asked some very good questions, and she answered them extremely well. So that's it for me.
Thank you. I'll go. So I did pretty much the same stuff. On the 10th, I did the Stewick's tour on the reclamation of the area at the end of Pine Street. It's very well received. Very happy to see the Stewick's group moving forward. Also went to the ICS opening. It's amazing what they've done with that building. And they've now offered the side of the building that's very clear there to us to put a mural on it. So I'll be approaching this with council's permission. We'll be approaching the Arts Council to see if they would like to see what they can do with that. So went to the ground break, which was we had Dan Elvis and Frank Caputo there. It was nice to see everybody there. It was nice to see some of the traditions that we don't normally see, and very happy to see the groundbreaking done. This has been a lot of hard work to get across the line, and I'm really glad it's done. I know the staff has worked overtime, extra time to make sure that has happened. On the 16th, I went to Nicola Meadows for my annual monthly visit, and yeah, so I enjoy going there, and it's always good. I kind of get grilled there when I go there, and I do enjoy it. On the 17th, I had the TNRD, and I went to the Coats and Chile as well, and it was well received. The ICS staff was very enjoyable. Met a lot of the clients and had some conversations. On the 19th was the election. I want to extend our congratulations to our new MLA, Mr. Tony Luck, who I met with today. And it'll be interesting to see where we go on that. I think it's a new time for all of BC at this point in time. And I have absolute confidence that we'll see some well-needed changes as we move along here. So congratulations to him. And had several other meetings during the weeks, other things that probably will come your way at some point. But that's it for me. Councillor Etchart.
Still Etchart, yeah, that's right. So everybody else has kind of said everything, but the open house on the 9th was great. A lot of work went into that. Seeing some of the new fire equipment in the Civic Center was great. People can see where we're spending money. And it was nice to see the equipment there. The 10th, the naturalization tour for Stewick. It was nice to have, I think, Mrs. Sterling there, kind of as an elder, giving some history and information. It was well attended. The ICS open house for the 1 week, the first one, they had the open house on the 11th. The SOGA meeting was on the 18th. We were discussing the convention, and since a lot of the membership seem to be upset about coffee cups, it looks like that's going to be our big project about having big, tall coffee cups so people can have lots of coffee to keep awake at the plenary. So that's good. And yeah, unfortunately, I didn't make it to the Chile open house because I had another meeting, but there's a lot of things coming up. And of course, I know that this coming week that the grad class is going to be doing the open house for citizens. So I hope everybody can go and see that. And yeah, just lots happening this week coming up. Oh, in the library open house, I hope everybody makes it to that tomorrow. Tomorrow. Thanks.
Councillor Rogan.
Thank you. October 9th, open house, as everyone already said it. So for those ones who were unable to attend, it was very well organized. Kudos to all the city employees. Very well, organization on that. October 19th, Interior Community Services. I got just there on time to be part of the tour that they provided. It was a great facility. October 12th, the groundbreaking. tomorrow, October 23rd, I will be delivering some sessions as part of the Lytton Business Recovery. That's going to be the second session. It's going to be virtual session. In October the 30th, I will attend Lytton in person to continue with these sessions as part of the Lytton Business Recovery.
Thank you. Councillor Charney, your mic is on. Do you need it on? No? Okay. Councillor Egan?
Thank you. I was unable to go to the open house because I was out of town. I did go to the ICS open house, and it was fabulous. I just think it's the most welcoming, warm place for people to go to. And if you haven't been, they've got some great ideas for seniors, for coffee with the seniors, try and get people who are staying home maybe more than they should be, try and get them to come out, you know, go for a coffee, maybe go for a beer, go for lunch, whatever, just to get them more engaged. I didn't get to go. Oh, I did go to the groundbreaking for the Mako, and I'm very, very pleased that it's another family-run business that's come into town. It's going to create a lot of jobs just getting it going, and then another 150 while it's in production. So that's great. I wasn't able to go to the Stewart Naturalization Project because it was at 10 in the morning, and I'm busy working. So I am planning on attending a few other events this week before I get my eye lasered on Friday with my name. Whatever. It was too early. Yeah. Thank you.
Any other reports? Any other reports? Moving on, we have information items. Anybody interested in anything in the information items that you want to pull out, have a talk about? There's our annual progress report there as well. What we've done. CAO?
Are we on me?
I've lost my last page, so I'm assuming we're on you.
Okay, I like to talk, so don't skip me.
God.
We've provided with you, and I'm sorry it didn't go in the package. I have been working on it in between many other things for the last several days. But ultimately this package is the capital projects that have been worked or that were budgeted and have been addressed so far this year. Costs that we're currently incurring may not be exactly correct because it was from the early to October update. We've also included a number of other major projects, the housing projects, economic development projects, the water meter program, and all of the work that's being done in development services to update our program there, the services that we offer the community there. So as you can see, just this work outside of our regular operations is almost $10 million worth of work that our staff has done. Much of it is related to critical water and sewer infrastructure, as you can see, as well as things like our asset management program, and fire, you know, when you spend money on a fire truck. Although the truck wasn't that expensive, it was not too bad. So that's an update. We'll try and do that twice a year for you, so you know where we are with our capital projects and with our other major projects. I have a few other things. Council the bylaw and policy review committee has a very fulsome agenda this week, with a number of bylaws coming forward, and we have a number that we've identified that will be coming forward before the new year, in order to be able to start enforcing them as soon as our new enforcement bylaws come in. Council has a lunch and learn on Thursday from planning and development. A couple of other events that I just want to make sure on people's calendars are the bridge opening, Middleborough's bridge opening celebration on November 16th in the morning, but it's a Saturday. It's a 10.
My walk starts at
This
8.
walk starts at 8 a.m. Yeah,
It's not
we'll be at the bridge at 10
every year.
to start. The Halloween Haunted House, which is a fundraiser for the grad class, is October 24th and 25th at the Civic Center. And I'm going to put this out in public because I think it's really important. So we're coming up on the 2nd anniversary of this council. Congratulations, except for Councillor Baxter.
Yeah.
So I would like to propose, I don't know if during the open house, council or other members of the gallery or the community did the exit room that was put on by the fire department. Great work by our fire department. It's very educational. So I would like to extend to council as a second anniversary team building that our firefighters who put that on would like to do a larger one in the fire hall for council to participate in.
Sure. Will they have like balloons and stuff?
Well, there will be no balloons, water balloons maybe. And then I'm willing to extend that my leadership team will challenge council.
Oh,
for
you
fastest
young children
outcome.
are so naive.
Fastest time. So if I, can I?
It's on. It's on.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna get that done. I'll get a date
Yeah, but
out to you.
But here's the thing, there's no looking at anything before it happens, so no inside scoop here.
I won't let the fire chief look
All
at it.
Thank you. Any? Oh, Councilor Egan?
Yes, where was I? Yes,
Right.
looking at the, I just have a couple of questions. The water master plan update, 70,000. Is that the meters?
No.
That is actually our master plan going forward for how we manage our water service.
Okay.
Yeah, it needs to be regularly updated.
Okay, and then the yikes one at 286. Now, is this the loan that we lent them?
Yeah, so ultimately, this is the money that the city has put into the project. There was some money that came from them once we hit a certain point of cost, which I think we've exceeded. This will, as soon as the project is completed, they will start to receive a special parcel tax to repay this amount.
So the quicker we get that troika situation going, the faster we're in the black.
Okay.
Councilor Charney?
Okay, I see some that are under budget, some that are over budget. Do we have where we sit? Are we over budget or are we under budget or are we in the middle? And then the one that really strikes me is cemetery expansion. Budget was 71,489. And the actual or whatever the actual to date is 196,429.
It's the marmots.
Yeah, those expensive marmots.
Well, I think like anything else, and I'm not gonna take words out of anybody's mouth, but when you apply to do something and time marches on, values change rapidly.
That's just about triple them.
That's why we've dropped some of our, that's why we grind our own sidewalks now. Because some contractors triple within a year or double a year.
What we're finding is that things are becoming more expensive. One of the reasons we're doing a lot of our major project work and our bylaws internally. So for instance, we had a budget previously for the building bylaw. We did that work internally because we can't continue to address these rising costs from consultants and
I
or
agree on
contractors. So we're trying to bring as much, development services is doing a lot of their work internally, just because we know that we need to address this in a more cost-effective way. And having a third party come in and do some of this work is going to continue to drive costs up. Whereas some of it we have to do externally because we don't have the skills or resources to do it.
Okay, so go back to number one. Are we kind of on budget?
Not all
or-
of these numbers are exact to date because this is from early October, late September. So the ones that are completed and over and the ones that are completed and under, the only ones that I can say for sure.
So we have to figure that out now.
Councilor Egan?
Just quickly, under the arena, what's GHG stand for?
Something back.
Greenhouse gas.
Thank you.
Oh.
Councilor Charney, done? Thank you. Anyone else have any other questions? Could I get council to stay for 5 minutes after this? I have a question to ask you. With that, we'll adjourn. Thank you.